Okay, so again, welcome to everyone. This morning, we've all been looking forward to Rose's talk from our more from our Nurture Your Divine Spirit on self-reflection. So Rose, we're looking forward to your talk.
Well, thank you so much for being here today. As Ron said, I'm going to talk about self-reflection this morning, and it comes from our booklet, Nurture Your Divine Spirit. I'm going to be giving you some definitions, talk about what some others have said about self-reflection, some different methods of self-reflection, and lastly, a very, very short video, 1 to 2 minutes, where we're going to affirm that, first of all, that this video is going to work correctly. Okay, we're affirming that right now. The video, the technology is going to work correctly. Okay, so wonderful. So the definitions. First of all, the dictionary says that self-reflection is a meditation or serious thought about one's character, actions, and motives, that it's careful thought about your own behavior and beliefs. Now, in the booklet, Reverend Sandra Campbell says that self-reflection means taking a personal inventory of where you are now and looking back on how far you've come in gaining wisdom and understanding. My favorite definition is this. It comes from Beverly D. Flaxington, who is an author and teacher at Suffolk, and she states, here's what healthy self-reflection is not. It is not beating up on oneself. It is not devolving into woe is me thinking, or using the opportunity to focus on all the bad things that have happened to you and how you could have prevented them. No, it's understanding where you are triggered or what situations are troubling or negative for you, and then taking a step back to ask yourself about your role or contribution to that process. Now, a lot of people have said a lot of things about self-reflection. Let's start with what the Bible says. In Matthew 7:3-5, it says, why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye? How can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye, when all the time there is a plank in your own eye? You hypocrite. First, take the plank out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. Now, in Proverbs, it says, the beginning of wisdom is this: get wisdom, and whatever else you do, get insight. Now, in ancient Greece, at the temple of Apollo, more than 3,000 years ago, inscribed on the forecourt of the temple, it says, know thyself, know thyself. Oprah Winfrey said, you cannot have a meaningful life without having self-reflection. Carl Jung said, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. Now, Rumi, who is one of Unity's favorite poets, says, I found the divine within my heart. He also said, people of the world don't look at themselves, and so they blame one another. Another thing that he said was, oh, happy the soul that saw its own faults. Now, we said that there are a lot of methods of self-reflection, and every day there's an opportunity to examine ourselves and determine where we've come from and how far we have to go to fulfill our true purpose. And Reverend Campbell from our booklet says that we often reserve these opportunities for looking back on the past year to determine what we want to leave behind and what we desire to bring forward. And we do that in unity with our burning bowl ceremony at the first of every year, where we write down these things that no longer serve us and we put them in the burning bowl. And then we write down the things that we would like to see come to fruition for ourselves within the next year. Well, guess what? You don't have to wait a year to do this. And it's probably more fruitful to do it more often. And in looking back, we can see all that we have to be grateful for and recognize any need to change our direction or to change our attitude going forward. In our booklet, she says, the wisdom and understanding you gain from experience will enable you to make the adjustments necessary to arrive at your next destination. Now, there have also been very many books written about self-reflection, as you can well imagine. Michael Waronko wrote the book, The Power of Self-Reflection. And in it, he gives us some questions to ask ourselves as we're self-reflecting to try and help us. Some of these questions are, am I employing a healthy perspective? Am I waking up in the morning ready to take on the day? Am I thinking negative thoughts before I fall asleep? Am I taking care of myself physically? And many other questions in that book. There's also a book entitled, It's Up to You, The Practice of Self-Reflection on the Buddhist Path. And it's written by Rinpoche, I hope I say this word halfway correctly, Zygar Kongtrul. Rinpoche. That one I looked up, as often I have to do when I'm doing my research. Rinpoche in Tibetan Buddhism is an incarnate Lama or a highly respected religious teacher. So it's a title. And this Rinpoche says that self-reflection is the gateway to freedom. It also brings greater appreciation and enjoyment. We begin to enjoy spending time with our own mind, and we enjoy reflecting on our experience of the teachings. Like the sun emerging from behind the clouds, the teaching of the Dharma become clear. And the Rinpoche also says, how do we reconcile the idea of enlightenment with what we see when we look in the mirror? When insecurities and doubts and self-centered tendencies arise in our minds. He says that self-reflection is a practice, a path, and an attitude. It's the spirit of taking an interest in that which we usually try to push away. And when we practice self-reflection, we take liberation into our own hands and accept the challenge and personal empowerment. Now, Dr. Chiki Davis is a consultant, a writer, and an expert on well-being technology. And she's written articles in the Berkeley Wellbeing Institute, and she's also written in Psychology Today. And she says that when we use self-reflection, we gain a better understanding of ourselves, our motivations, and our behaviors. And that many of our habits, our patterns of behavior, our preset programming in our minds, buried in our subconscious, and that they operate in a sort of control room. Now, when I thought of that, I thought of that wonderful movie, that Disney movie, that Pixar movie entitled Inside Out. If you've never seen it, it's animated. I'd recommend it highly to you, because within that movie, your mind is a control room. And there are these characters, joy, sadness, anger, fear, and disgust, that are all in charge of running the mind of a little person. Well, that's what we have. Running the mind of a person, okay? Directing how we think, how we feel, how we act. And oftentimes that can hurt our well-being. Dr. Davis says if we want to be in control, we need to look beyond the conscious mind and change some programming that no longer serves us. And one way that we can do that is through self-reflection, which is putting a mirror up to ourselves and analyzing what we see or feel as objectively, that's a key word, objectively as possible, so that we can better understand ourselves and how we think and how we feel and how we behave. Self-reflection is important because it can allow us to take a step back and gain perspective on what really matters to us. And then as a result, we can make better decisions about pursuing goals in our lives that suit our needs and our interests. When we better understand who we are and why we do the things we do, we can make those changes more easily, and it allows us to respond to circumstances in our lives in more effective ways. And hopefully this can keep us from saying or doing things that we may regret. Self-reflection can help us to know who we truly are. Sometimes self-reflection can be a little challenging. We're very, very busy people, and often we're addicted to these phone things that we have in our faces all the time. And sometimes it's better if we have a little more tranquil mind before we start our self-reflection. So maybe you want to listen to a little meditative music. Maybe you want to take some deep breaths to kind of settle down just a little bit, to quiet our thoughts, okay? Often self-reflection can be like that onion again, where we're peeling back those layers, okay? So remember to go at your own pace. Don't try to hurry this. And remember, the most important thing is to be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself as you learn more about what's underneath, because what's underneath can sometimes be a little uncomfortable. Be kind to yourself. Self-reflection can give us the opportunity to observe ourselves with new insight, to be more observant of ourselves in the present, to be able to catch ourselves when our unconscious, those little crazy things in our mind, is in control and leads us to go against our true selves and our values. Our self-awareness is likely to grow, helping us to become better and have more control over our lives and be more authentic when we practice self-reflection. Now, there are other approaches that you can use for self-reflection, such as journaling and asking those questions for yourselves. There are actually workbooks that you can buy that already have those questions in there, okay? Guiding questions that are designed to help you get to know yourself better. And remember again, be sure to be gentle with yourself as you self-reflect. The goal is not to judge your past choices. Don't judge them, but to reflect on them, to learn from them, and to make whatever changes that we feel are going to be appropriate for us here and now. And remember to build on those strengths. Recognize your strengths as you self-reflect. And then we can build new habits. And we can become a more balanced, healthy, and happy person. Now, many of you may be familiar with the work of Byron Katie and many of the books that she has written. When I look at what she has written, I realize that she does have a lot in common with the Course in Miracles. And she's founded what she calls the work. The work. It's a process of self-reflection and thought inquiry. And she has 4 questions that make up the work that she says can free us from unnecessary suffering. The first question is it true? Is it true? The second question, can you absolutely know that it's true? Absolutely. Number 3, How do you feel? How do you react when you believe that thought? And number 4, our last question, who would you be without that thought? Who would you be without that thought? Okay, now comes the best part of this whole talk, because I'm going to quit talking. Yay. Okay, I have a very, very small, short video. This gentleman's name is Simon Sinek. He's an author and motivational speaker, and he's going to talk about on how reflection informs personal growth. Now, remember, I told you that we were affirming that this video is going to work correctly. So I'm going to attempt to, I'm not going to attempt, it's going to be successful. We're going to show this video. I'm going to start it and then I'm going to stop it. And I would like you to raise your hand to make sure that you can hear it. I'll ask that question first. And can you see it? And then we'll continue and I'll be done. So thank you again for joining. Namaste. And here we go. Let's try that video. Bear with me. Can you hear it? Let me know. Can you see it? Let me know.
Yes.
Great. Here we go.
What role has reflection played in shaping your personal growth?
The ability to look at oneself critically, to say to oneself, you were good in that situation, you weren't good in that situation, you could have been better in that situation. Not to be overly critical, meaning you're always at fault if something goes badly, or not to be so filled with hubris that you think everything you did was fine and it's always the other person, but be able to sort of separate yourself, to look at the situation from as if you were the third party, evaluating it. You know, when they do sales training, there's, you know, it's always 3 people. One who pretends to be the salesman, one who pretends to be the customer, and one who observes. And then they all take turns, you know, and the one who does the learning is the observer. So the question is, can you be your own observer? Like, can you replay a situation? And so self-reflection has been huge for me, and I've been huge into it for many, many, many years. The ability to say, okay, I can take some responsibility for the outcome of that, good or bad,
Yeah.
and I can learn to do that again, or I can learn to spot those situations and avoid them in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rose. Very good. Thank you for all those wonderful insights and your wisdom that you shared with us for self-reflection. Thank you very much.
I hope it's helpful.